Hello, everyone. This is Tom with On-Campus College Planning. We are talking about models of shared responsibility, or how to split the college costs and still stay together as a family. So in about 10 to 15 minutes, I'm going to cover what I call some models of shared responsibility that I think are going to be really powerful tools for you to think about as a parent or as parents, and then to share with your student as well, to really put some definition and give you some clarity to this process and not leave it until it's time to write the tuition check. What I'm going to try to do today is make this very real and really empower you so that you can explore options and not be kind of looking over each other's shoulder, wondering, who's spending the money, where's it coming from, etc. This is not a video on how to save for college or what's a good cost, or even just the average cost of college. We put some information out in the newsletter this week, and we'll post it on social media about some college costs, what we call a college cost snapshot, sort of a one-page PDF that gives you some just basic information about college costs and some like anchor costs that you can use. And I highly encourage you to maybe take a look at that real quickly, or print that off and have that sitting down as you work through this. Okay, so there's a big question that people like to avoid, and I have this conversation, and I feel like I'm sort of asking a question that they don't want me to ask. Families come in for a free consult, or I'm talking to a parent at a game or a social event, something like that, and eventually I need to ask them, have you guys had that family discussion about paying for college and the level of shared responsibility between student and parents? And I don't say it that way, but I often just talk about, have you talked about who pays for what and when? Because that's really what it is. Who is paying for which part of this, and when are they doing that? Now, future, etc. And most people say not yet. And I cut families a lot of slack. And if you're one of those families, I'm trying to be gentle with you here, but I'm encouraging you to take this information and to act on it soon. Don't just watch this video and go away and not do anything for 3 months or something. Do something within the next week, okay? Have a conversation, talk to your financial planner, whatever it needs to be. And the most common response, if they do say that we have, they're like, well, no, but we plan to pay for everything. We'll expect Casey to have some skin in the game. Here's the problem with skin in the game. It doesn't work. It's very undefined, and it's frankly kind of a scary Silence of the Lambs type of phrase that maybe kids aren't familiar with. Remember, they have different lingo than you or I do. So they don't know what skin in the game means. Does that mean they're contributing thousands of dollars? Does that mean that they're just responsible for, spending on lattes and pizzas and clothes and things like that? And so you can actually counterintuitively limit their options. What you might think you're doing is sort of saying, hey, don't worry about it, I got this. But then you're also telling them that they're going to have to be responsible for something, and you're not defining what that is. And so those boundaries and those borders really need to be set in place in a way that they can handle. And they can handle this, okay? They can handle straight talk about money as long as you're giving some context. We had this discussion with our two boys who are both now in college when they were in middle school. Okay. And it's not just because I do this for a living and, I talk about colleges all the time. It's because I thought this was a good thing for them to think about, just in like little small ways. And it did help in some ways to say, hey, I think I need to start saving up money for college, and to kind of know what they're going to need as well. And just remove some of the mystery and some of the fear from the whole process. So this is really what we're doing, is we're thinking about like a continuum. Right. And there's going to be a infinite number of points along this, but I'm going to focus on kind of 3 areas and then some options within those areas. So we could say that, the parents are going to pay for everything, quite literally everything. Or if you say we're going to pay for all of it, you at least need to define that. And that gets back to that skin in the game concept. Are you going to take care of spending money? Are you giving them like a stipend every month for just what people used to call mad money? Or are they expected to work during school or during summer? And does that money go to this or not? I still think it's good, even if you're saying we're going to cover absolutely everything. I still think it's a good idea for you to work with your student to understand what COA, cost of attendance, is. This can be an incredible gift. Parents are still paying a huge chunk of college costs for students right now. And it's not that the gift needs to come with strings attached to it necessarily, but I think it's really a legit thing to just say, look, we're making this big investment because we believe in you, and we believe in the power of a college education as maybe the best gift we can give you. And we want you to understand, we're sacrificing to do this. We want you to make the most of it and to receive the gift in the best manner possible. And here's what this costs, partly so that they don't kind of mess around and just get wasted. You want them to understand what that is. You might want to put a cap on the number of years. Hey, it's 4 years, then you're paying for everything after that, or number of semesters, something like that. And so there's some options within this, all the way to the left. It does, it puts a burden on the parent because you're paying a lot, costs of attendance at an in-state university, and cost of attendance, that's direct and indirect costs. So, it's at least $25,000 a year when you add in everything, book supplies, the whole soup to nuts type of thing, times 4, that's $100,000. It's almost impossible to get a college degree and pay less than $100,000 for it. And you might be going somewhere out of state, private college, whatever, and based on your merit scholarships, you might be paying the same, maybe you're paying more. I mean, this could even double that. So, and you need to be kind of all in no matter what, both parents. And if you're divorced, I'm not a therapist. I can't tell you how to get along with one another, but if you're divorced and doing this, or if you're together and doing this, you guys got to be all in. And really that holds true for any of these models. I really think that spouses, partners really need to be all in on this and come to some kind of an agreement. And, Hillary and I had those conversations, I think, even before our boys were born. I remember having a conversation in a coffee shop on Michigan Avenue on a weekend trip to Chicago. I'm sure we didn't do that after our kids were born. So that must have been before any of that. And we actually talked about this a little bit, and that was the start of the conversation. So then the flip side of that is maybe as a parent, I can't, or I just choose not to contribute. Okay. And you can say, look, I want you to pay for it. I had to pay for it on my own. I want you to pay for it on your own. I would just kind of remind you, parent, if you're saying I had to pay for it on your own, you should pay for it on your own. The costs have gone up considerably. And so whereas it was not easy, but it was doable in the past to work hard during the summer and deliver some pizzas or something like that during the year to pay for a year of college, that's basically impossible right now. So the costs have gone up, and at least think about that. I will say this, the independent status on FAFSA is tough for 18-year-olds. So if you're thinking of this as like a strategy to increase your need-based aid, and you're saying, we're not going to give Johnny anything, and then when he fills out the FAFSA, they're going to see that Johnny has absolutely no money whatsoever, and it's going to be a free ride. It's not going to happen that way. Independent status versus dependent, which almost all college kids that we work with, because they're probably right out of high school and they're going to a residential college, they're almost all dependent. And that's not just if they're on your taxes or not. It's age, it's whether you've been in the military. If you have any dependents as a student, there's about 6 questions that the FAFSA asks at the very beginning. And so just be aware that if this is like a strategy to increase need-based aid, it's probably not going to work. And you really need to then put affordability as a need, not a want or a nice to have when you're exploring colleges. In terms of debt, now this is a rule of thumb, and a rule of thumb is just an easy way of thinking about something, but a very intelligent person who talks about financial aid all the time said this: student debt should be less than the expected first year earnings of a student. So that means that if you're going into something, that pays really well right out of the gate, something probably in a STEM field or business, maybe you're going to be a mechanical engineer, maybe you're going into finance, you could come out making $50,000, $60,000 a year more, and you might be able to handle more debt as a student versus someone perhaps in the humanities. You're studying 16th century Elizabethan poetry, and hey, I'm the guy that studied studio art. Right. So I get that, but you have to think about those types of choices and lifestyle choices, and not just think about like debt as just a frozen number. It is the ultimate lesson in managing one's money as a young adult, but it obviously puts a lot of burden on the student. So If you're not going to go all the way to the left or the right, you're probably going to be somewhere in the middle. Okay. And we can divide this a lot of different ways, but three categories that we can use to think about this. We can split this up or share this. Maybe that's a better way, because these are models of shared responsibility. We can share this by a percentage, by a specific category, or with a fixed limit. And I'm going to show you some examples of all of those right now. So here's the percentage, and it's maybe the easiest one to think about. So you can say, look, our budget is this, or it's wide open, but whatever we have, we're going to divide it right down the middle as a family. Parent, I'm paying half. Student, you are paying half. Both parties are contributing equally. It truly is a shared responsibility. And you could have some limits on it. You can say, look, I don't want you to take on too much debt. So, we're going to go up to $30,000. That means we've got 15 a year and you've got 15 a year. And maybe you can get out an extra summer or semester and reduce some of your costs. So percentage is one way to do it. And it could be any percentage that you want, obviously. This is what we do. We do it by category. And so by category is like, we're going to pay for this, you pay for that type of thing. And what we have done, and this is actually what my parents did with myself and my two older brothers, is they said, we're going to take care of the academic costs. You take care of the living expenses, right? And specifically, we as parents are going to cover your tuition and fees. You're going to cover your room and board, right? That's the classroom and then the living. And then they gave us a stipend for books and supplies. I think it was, gosh, I don't know, $300 a semester or something like that back in the day. A good estimate for books and supplies now is $1,200 a year. Travel and personal expenses, obviously, those can vary a lot. But this is the one that the CLEASES use, because what it has done for us is we've said, we're going to take the tuition and fees, we're going to pay for your books, a little bit towards other kind of academic and costs and a little bit of spending money, et cetera. But what that has done for our kids is it really opens up the out-of-state possibilities and private options as well. And we wanted them to really kind of poke their heads up and look around and not say, well, I got to pick the best college that's in-state and a public university. There's nothing wrong with the in-state public universities, but in both of our kids' cases, there was, and for one of them, there weren't really any colleges in state that offered his major. And the other, there was only one, and it wasn't going to be a good fit for him. And so I knew we were going to be looking out of state, and that's fine. We have chosen to save for that. We've chosen to pay for that out of pocket. And I'm really happy that we have made these decisions, and they get to choose their lifestyle. And one of them chooses to live a little bit more frugally. One of them is making some choices of like, well, I've got more money, I'm going to live a little bit differently. And we talk about those things, and that's been a great conversation to have. And just something else to add is the merit scholarships that both Jack and Joe earned, right? We split that. So if let's say they got $10,000 a year, they get to keep 5,000 of that and apply that to their room and board. And then we get 5,000 of that. And you might say, well, wait a minute, didn't they earn it? You didn't go to class, Tom. You didn't take the ACT. No, but I paid someone on my staff to help one of my kids with the ACT, and I coached the other one. You know what? They did all those things while they were living under my roof, and I feel like I'm entitled to some of their scholarships. So that's how we've done that. But that was great, because they could really then, focus on the room and board thing and look for places where they could earn big merit scholarships. And Joe's second choice, man, he would have paid about $2,000 a year in room and board after his share of the merit scholarship. It ultimately wasn't what he chose. He's still getting a great deal, but that was really a good choice, I think, by us to sort of open up some options as well. So that's a category type of thing, and you can split that any way you want. And then this is really common. And I just had a conversation with someone the other day about this. We're going to pay whatever, $20,000, and then you, student, you're on the hook for anything beyond that. You could do it as a total for all 4 years of college, which obviously would mean that they're paying more if they go a little bit longer, whatever. It's putting a heavier load generally on parents, depending on how you split it up. And then the student gets to decide that, if I want more than, and you could think about it like we're going to give you a nice used, modest mileage Honda Accord or Toyota Camry, great car, still in really great shape. If you want something fancier, you want a BMW, you have to pay for the difference between that. Maybe just one way to think about that, kind of supersizing things a little bit. So that's one way to talk about fixed limits as well. So next steps, here we go. And it really does start with you as a parent or as parents, if you're in a relationship, if you are with a partner, you guys need to hammer this out first. Okay. Even though maybe your student was watching this, I still think you need to really talk about this, and you probably need to bring in your financial planner and even your accountant about this, because there are a lot of moving parts in this. And the last thing I want is anyone to say, hey, we made this choice and then it ended up costing us more and you gave us bad advice. No, my advice is for you to go work with your financial planner and your accountant. And I've got great referrals for both of those if you need some. Then run some numbers. Whoever in the family is kind of the checkbook geek, sit down on a Sunday afternoon with last year's taxes and knowing what your salaries and expenses are, and use net price calculators, NPCs, figure out what your expected family contribution, EFC is, and just kind of run some numbers for different types of colleges, maybe some that your student is thinking about, or some that you're thinking about for him, her, or them, and just get a ballpark idea of not just the sticker price, that's important, but then also what the price might be after either need-based aid or scholarships, merit-based aid too. If you want more help on that, please contact me. I can show you some great ways to look for that as well. And really give your student a heads up. Don't spring this on them. Don't have them like playing Xbox and then all of a sudden be talking over their shoulder. It's not going to go well. Treat it seriously. This is a big deal. It's not life or death, but it's a big deal. But show love and let them know why you're making this decision and what you hope to gain from that in asking them to share some of the costs, or in giving them a big chunk of your resources to help them make this work. All right. This is an incredible gift. Okay. And let them know that. Other next steps. If you would like to just talk to me about this, we could sit down in person or via Zoom. We could, do a free hour of just batting some of these ideas around. Schedule a free consult right from our homepage, oncampuscollegeplanning.com. You could also do it from a link on our Facebook page as well. And if you're thinking, hey, I'm kind of in over my head, I think I need some help, we've got a couple of different college search packages. It's the most enjoyable thing I think I do, because I get to work with not just the student, but the family. And we've got a couple of different programs where I'm going to really help you to kind of expand the options and give you some great advice, and really guide you, kind of shepherd you in a way that's fun and healthy and productive, and partner with you so that you feel like you're making the best step. The standard college search program is, I'm going to say, only $1,000, because $1,000 is a lot of money, but $1,000 compared to $100,000 or more, maybe you can think about it as like a 1% insurance policy against making a poor decision or against future family and marriage therapy, something like that. I hope you've enjoyed this. Please, if you got questions, and if you just want to pop me an email, tom@oncampuscollegeplanning.com, or post some comments in Facebook, I would love to hear from you. Have this discussion. It's not too early, parents. Even if they're like in 7th and 8th grade, even if you don't talk about it with them, at least be talking amongst yourselves and with your financial planner as well, and kind of lay some things out. I know it's going to be a little bit scary to, going to do kind of this, to look at the numbers sometimes, but you're going to be glad you did. And you're going to find that there are tremendous options out there for every budget and for every family. And you can find the University of You. I wish you the best of luck.